The diaconal ordination of 2024 for the Diocese of Buea is billed for June 29th, and 12 candidates have been declared fit for the ordination rite. The funeral mass of the first ever female lawyer in Cameroon, Mama Marianne Anjunjo Shalo Weleji, has taken place. Lawyers from across the country joined the Christian community of Holy Family Parish, Limbe, to pay her last respect. And stakeholders of the Southwest Development Authority, Soweto, have ended a board meeting today, which took place at Mountain Hotel here in Buea. Good evening and thanks for joining us on this edition of our Primetime News, which wraps up the week. Those are our top stories which we compiled for you for tonight's edition. Just stay tuned for the details. Right, welcome back, dear viewers. 12 candidates have been declared for the diaconate ordination of the Diocese of Buea come June 29, 2024. This declaration is contained in a communique recently published by the Bishop of Buea, His Lordship Michael Bibi. Newsroom editor Jude Mbaku now takes us for a full readout of that communique.
May 30th, 2024, to all clergy, all members of the Institute of Consecrated Life, all societies of apostolic life, all lay faithful, Diocese of Buea, dear brothers and sisters, acceptance for diaconal ordinations, June 2024. After the publication of the bands of the candidates who applied for diaconal ordination in the Diocese of Buea, and based on the positive feedback from the parishes of candidates concerned, the following candidates have been accepted for ordination as deacons. 1. Eric Afongang. 2. Jodone Ambe. 3. Raymond Vichy. 4. Bertrand Noshimbang. 5. Christian Etuge Ekwele. 6. Cyril Sangyo Kiran. 7. Edwin Azong Akwo. 8. Fidelis Nzengo Anyao. 9. Tianji Idris Awong. 10. Jervis Bu Ebua. 11. Kirian Nanzi. 12. Augustine Ebotabungo. The ordination will take place on Saturday 29th of June 2024, Solemnity of Saints Peter and Paul, Apostles, at 9 a.m. at the Divine Mercy Co-Cathedral in Moluko. Let us continue to pray for these our brothers who have been called for service in the Church, that they may be endowed with all the graces they need for this service. Yours in his service, Michael Miabeswe Bibi, Bishop of Buea.
On to another story in the United States of America. The Right Reverend Michael Martin has been appointed as the bishop, or has been ordained as the Bishop of Charlotte, making him the 5th residential bishop of that diocese. The ceremony which took place at Huntston at St. Mark's Catholic Church in Huntersville, North Carolina, witnessed in attendance several prelates, amongst which was the Bishop of Buea, His Lordship Michael Bibi, and the Most Reverend Gregory Hartmeyer, who doubled as the priest, the preacher, and the principal consecrator, who in the context of the liturgy of that day appreciated the Bishop, Right Reverend Martin Michael, for his yes to God. Details of this story with Father Alphonse Wangibe from our newsroom.
The Episcopal ordination of the Most Reverend Michael T. Martin took place on Wednesday 29th of May 2024 at the St. Mark Catholic Church in Huntersville, North Carolina. In the Pontifical High Mass officiated by the Principal Consecrator Most Reverend Gregory J. Hartmeyer, Metropolitan Archbishop of Atlanta, in the presence of 2 co-consecrators, the Most Reverend Peter Jugis and His Eminence Christophe Cardinal Pierre, as well as other bishops, priests and deacons. The prelates acknowledge and welcome the parents and sister of the bishop-elect, as well as his predecessor, who worked faithfully for 20 years.
Like Cardinal Pierre, I would like to recognize in a special way Bishop Peter Jugis, the 4th Bishop of Charlotte. Bishop Jugis, you have guided the diocese through unprecedented growth among Catholics and communities across Western North Carolina. opening new parishes and schools, promoting and fostering vocations to the priesthood and consecrated life, as well as founding St. Joseph's Seminary.
Addressing the bishop-elect in his homily, the Most Reverend Gregory Hart Meyer thanks him for his yes to God, for his yes to a bleak future known only to God, and exhorted him as well to have a humble and total trust in God. He added that the episcopal ministry is a call to deepen his friendship with Jesus and to bring all those he leads to experience this friendship with him.
My dear brother Michael, thank you for your yes to a future unknown to you, but known only fully to God. Allow your yes to be shaped by the unique yes of our Blessed Mother, Mother of the Church. Episcopal ministry is, first and foremost, a call to a deepened friendship with the Lord Jesus. Cut off from Him, we can do nothing. You will be even more dependent on the Lord's loving kindness as you step forward in this service of sacrificial loving for the Church.
Furthermore, with reference to his episcopal motto, looking out to put out into the deep, as Peter did, the prelate reminded the bishop-elect that looking out is an invitation to trust in the Lord always, depending and relying solely in Him.
My brother Michael, you have chosen as your episcopal motto the words spoken by Jesus to Peter, Duc in altum, put out into the deep. It is the Lord who invites us to put out into the deep as Peter did, as you reminded us last night in your homily. Putting out into the deep is an invitation to trust in the Lord at all times. It means relying less on ourselves and more on the one who calls us.
Prior to the end of the Holy Mass, the new and fit Bishop of the Diocese of Charlotte, highlighting unity as an essential aspect in every ministry, gave a vote of thanks beginning with his predecessor, Bishop Peter Jugis, and then the Cardinal, the consecrating bishops, and then his parents, as well as all those who were present. This he did in a humorous manner.
When you're a bishop of one diocese for 20 years, while I'm not sure that Bishop Jugis would say that it flew by, I do think that he would say it was a joy. He said that to me. And this prayerful, humble, holy man who has led us for 20 years is an inspiration for me and for us all, and I will be honored to have him as my brother bishop here in our diocese, continuing to serve us with his wonderful example of priestly service and love of Jesus.
Present at this episcopal ordination were bishops, deacons, priests, religious, and laity from far and near, from Atlanta, Baltimore, Charlotte, and Boya. With priest of Boya serving in the Diocese of Charlotte, their chief shepherd, Monsignor Michael Bibi, equally answered present, indicating the link and bond between both dioceses, as also evidenced some months ago when he paid a 5-day pastoral visit to his priest, working and serving in the Diocese of Charlotte, when Monsignor Peter Jugis was still on seat as the 4th residential bishop. All in all, joy filled the hearts of Christians in the Universal Church in general and the particular Church of Charlotte for a new bishop in the church. Born in Baltimore, Maryland on 2nd December 1961, ordained in June 10, 1989, and now bishop since 29th of May 2024.
Now back into the Diocese of Boya, Lawyers from across Cameroon, as well as family and friends of the first ever female lawyer of the country, that is Mama Mariana Njujo Shalo Weleji, settled today in Limbe to pay their last respects to the fallen legal mind. The highly attended funeral mass was officiated by His Grace Andrew Fwanyankea and the host of other bishops from across the ecclesiastical province of Bamenda. Eileen Sama from our newsroom attended that Holy Mass at Holy Family Parish, Newtown, Limbe, and compiled for us details in the following report.
Family, friends, colleagues and well-wishers have said their final goodbyes to the first female lawyer in Cameroon and in Central Africa, Mama Mariana Ngunjo Shalo Weleji, who began her journey to eternity Friday, May 31, 2024. While officiating the Requiem Mass, Bishop Andrew Gea described Mama Weleji as a dedicated Christian who lived a fulfilled life.
She counseled and consoled young girls who were in difficulty in their lives and advised young boys who were wayward. She made sure that the mission was always clean and neat, and she would go around herself from time to time, picking papers and gathering dirt. She almost single-handedly built the grotto outside the church for prayers and devotion of the faithful to the crucified Christ, and like a son of this parish, I can say there is nothing you see in this parish that does not have the touch of Mami Weleji.
Her son, Professor Elroy Patrick, affirms.
Mama is a great woman, not only from her legal point of view as an icon, the first lady woman lawyer in Cameroon and in Africa, but also as a Christian woman. You could see that in her marital life, she had to sacrifice her studies, the other further part of her studies, to come back home. Despite the problems she had with her husband, she came back and met the husband, and they had 2 further children. So even though she's such a tough, strong woman, but she knows the importance of marital life and the importance of love being a sacrifice, and that is why she's such a great woman to her own children, prospering in both her academic life and her spiritual life. I think that is the example she set for us, the children.
To the bereaved, the passing of their mother, grandmother, sister and friend is a huge loss to the family.
Mama was also the leader of the Shalo family. As I said, she was the first daughter of the Shalos. It's a whole dynasty. She educated about 10 children behind them and the grandchildren. So it's a great loss, more even for the Shalos. Also, we're just a small annex, our own small 5 children. But a great loss to the Shalos because she was the breadwinner, the thinker to everybody.
As the pioneer member of Divine Mercy Apostolate Group, Boya Diocese, the contributions of Mama Mariana Ngunjo Shalom Weleji cannot be underestimated and will go down memory lane.
Mama Weleji, actually, she was a person who brought Divine Mercy to Boya Diocese. Came with this prayer and met a few women of her age in Mutengene and Siko, where it actually took off. At that time, they had a prayer which they call Kalabanda. So when Mama brought in Divine Mercy, they incorporated Divine Mercy into that prayer. And it started early 1982. Mama has been very, very instrumental in this prayer group, the Divine Mercy Apostle Prayer Group, because all of the literature about the prayers, she brought them from England. So it spread until we have it now in Kumba, Douala, Yaoundé. They have though it is a French version of it, but it's still Divine Mercy Apostolate.
The first female lawyer in Cameroon and Central Africa leaves behind her children, grandchildren, siblings, the entire Shalo family, colleagues, Divine Mercy group members, friends, and the church to mourn her.
Well, may the put the soul of Mama Mariana Weleji rest in perfect peace, as we say in the Catholic Church. Now on to another story. Organizers of the Boya Catholic Choirs Association have launched this year's choral competition, which will begin on the 16th of June 2024. This year has as theme being together in unity, and the competition is aimed at fostering unity between choristers, especially as they prepare for the grand celebration of the 75th anniversary of the Diocese of Boya come 2025. Nadej Met talked to some organizers of the contest and now reports.
The main objective to foster unity between choir groups in the Diocese of Boya, organizers of Boya Diocesan Catholic Choir Association with acronym BODICA have launched the 2024 Diocesan Choral Competition. In commemorating this year's edition, everything linked to the choral competition is focused toward the grand celebration of the 75th anniversary of the Diocese of Boya come 2025. This year, 3 songs shall be presented on stage, with the main song being Proclaim the Good News, composed by Aloysius Fonking. Dr. Tome Jude is the Diocesan General Coordinator of Boudica and expatiated the reasons for these songs.
We are looking at commemorating activities towards the 75th anniversary grand celebration. The main song for the competition, first part of the competition, Proclaim the Good News, is composed by Mr. Fonking Aloysius, and that will be the main competition song. Of course, it looks into the 75th anniversary celebration, and of course there will be one other song of choice, an entrance song and an exit song. Of course, even the second part, we shall have a song that resides around the 75th anniversary, still composed by one of us, and of course it will be rendered as the main song. And of course there will be a song of choice, an entrance song and an exit song. So we want to encourage the choristers to look towards this aspect of unity.
Dr. Tome Jude further explains the modality of the choral competition, which is basically on stage presence, diction, intonation, vocal quality, dynamics, amongst others.
Your presence on stage becomes captivating and entices your audience. There are many more. We have diction, of course, pronunciation of the words, you articulate your words, how articulative you are. And the third, intonation. Of course, before you start rendering a hymn, you have to intone in a key, in a particular key. Whether it's key, the keys range from C round, it's a cyclic kind of thing, C, D, E, F, G, then we come back to A, B and go on like that. But of course there are different scales as you go, but all fall within those keys. Now we have, of course, rhythmic interpretation. Of course there's a rhythm associated with that song. Vocal quality, how beautiful your voices are. And so if you eat a lot of watafufu and ero and you come to sing, some will maybe be able to maneuver and get their way through. But for parts like soprano and tenor, I bet you it will not be easy for you. If you take cold drinks and a lot of beer dehydrates your throat, and you need a lot of hydrated maybe skin or body around your vocal cavity for the vibrations that will take place there. There are lots more of things that will be considered as far as this evaluation is considered.
The coordinator adds that any form of cheating among the choir groups this year will be penalized. Group risks disqualification from the competition.
In a situation where we investigate and we discover that there is a mercenary, like we will say, a mercenary, someone you hire who is not part of your choir, the first thing is that it will play to your disadvantage. Before even getting to the penalty, it will play to your disadvantage. You won't take someone, it's not like football where you take someone who has not rehearsed with you and just come and put and he will play with you. But in music, there's some communication that has to take place here. If it doesn't play negatively on you, then you are fortunate. Then the second thing, on our own part, we will penalize you by suspending you for the competition. You'll be disqualified. And we have not actually thought of maybe a further penalty to give after suspending you, but you will lose your eligibility to participate in that competition. Once we discover that you are using someone who is not of your choir. That's the first stage. A choir can be disqualified, or a choir, the victors, you choose the victors. Those that did not qualify, they might have some of their members who are exceptional too, and the qualifiers will choose some from among them to go to the next stage. It is not allowed.
This year's Boya Diocesan Choral Competition begins June 16, 2024 with Boya Dinari, followed by Moliko Dinari and others. The choristers are called upon to practice more, do a lot of breath management, voice training in striking very high and low notes and making a transition in them.
Away from the church, the board of directors for the Southwest Development Authority, SOWEDA, have given the organization a pass mark after evaluating this year's budgets as well as reports for the year, of course, 2023. This was during the 50th ordinary session of the board meeting that took place here in Boya. Aloysius Likie was part of that meeting and compiled for us the following report.
The administrative account, management account, the Specialized Finance Controllers Report and the Annual Performance Report of the Southwest Development Authority, SOWEDA, has been examined and approved by the Board of Directors. This was during the 50th ordinary session of SOWEDA Board of Directors meeting that took place in Boya. The committee also evaluated the work done by the management in the year 2023 following the grid adopted by the board. The report from the committee also carries motions advising the board on issues concerning the scope of SOWEDA's mission, the need for a training session for board members, amongst others. The board, after listening to these reports, headed by the board chairman, Mr. Herbert Apande Ediage, says it's been a wonderful year and gives the body a pass mark, especially achieving over 80% of its project despite the ongoing crisis.
Generally, we look at the reports presented by management concerning the running of the institution in the year 2023. And after examining the reports, we discovered or realized that management executed the budget at a good rate. Resources were mobilized to the tune of about 2,266 million, and of those 2,266, 1,840 were executed, in terms of expenses. So that gives an execution rate of about 81%. And the board thinks that the management has done very well. That rate of execution, considering the insecurity that we see find in some areas in the division, we think that the board did very well, and the management did very well, and the board congratulated management, not only for that level of execution, but for the quality of the documents that they presented.
The board members equally came out with the following resolutions and recommendations for the next fiscal year, some of which is calling on SOWEDA to look for more partners to attract funding.
We know that the state's coffers are strained now, and everybody is aware of that the priority of the state now is to provide for the security of persons and beings, especially in our regions here. And so the coffers of the states are strained. The kind of subvention we used to receive from Minade, for example, or other structures in Yaoundé, they do no longer come, or they come, they actually trickle. So we've recommended asking management to look for partners, other funding partners, and even, collaborate with third parties, especially international partners who have funding and who have projects, development projects, like agro-industrial projects. So we partner with them. So this will not only bring in development projects in our region, but it is also going to be a source of income for Soweto, because Soweto is going to have shares in there.
The board also discussed on the evolution of existing projects and the build-up of new projects, and even suggested new horizons that could be exploited by the management.
On to another story. Today is commemorated globally as World No Tobacco Day under the theme Protecting the Child from the Tobacco Industry Interference. This is to emphasize the need to protect the future generations and ensure that tobacco consumption continues to reduce in our societies. Jamila Tutungtang took interest on this story and compiled for us the following report.
The high consumption rate of tobacco by youths and adults alike is becoming very alarming these days, as one can barely walk around covering a reasonable kilometer without spotting a good number of persons smoking. In the city of Buea, specifically around the university area Moliko, both male and female indulge into the high intake of tobacco in different forms. From smokeless tobacco to pipes, hookahs, electronic cigarette, dissolvable tobacco, cigarette, biddies, and others, many get introduced to trying these different forms daily. Talking with one of the smokers whose names could not be gotten, he said he started smoking since 10 years ago, but doesn't know why he smokes except for the fact that he smokes when he is happy and equally feels fine after smoking. Meanwhile, he looks forward to someday quit the act, just like his father of blessed memory.
I know why I'm smoking, but I don't know what is inside the cigarette stuff, the nicotine stuff. It's just something that we just do it out of pleasure. When I'm smoking, I'm very cool. When I'm angry, I don't smoke. Sometimes I stay months, weeks, I don't smoke. That's why I smoke LC. So many people don't smoke LC because LC is like you don't get high. My late father smoked for 35 years. He stopped it some. I will wish to stop this.
The World No Tobacco Day is observed every year May 31st, with the date being established by the World Health Organization in 1988, aimed at creating awareness about the health risks associated with tobacco use and advocate efficient policies to decrease the usage. This year's theme is tagged Protecting Children from Tobacco Industry Interference, emphasizing the need to protect the future generations and ensure that tobacco consumption continues to reduce in our societies, and why not the world at large.
On to our foreign page, the UN has voted to extend an arms embargo, travel bans and asset freezing in South Sudan so as to prevent the flow of weapons into that country. And the head of military in Africa has an anti-terrorism strategy on the continent and has pledged to pursue it despite a wave of criticism. Let's have details of this story and more on our foreign page with Joseph Otto.
The head of state of the U.S. military in Africa has vigorously defended his anti-terrorism strategy on the continent and pledged to pursue it despite a wave of criticism and a drift by African nations towards seeking aid to security from Russia. In an interview with the Associated Press on Wednesday during African Lion, a war simulation exercise in Morocco, General Michael Langley blamed a wave of Russian disinformation for anti-American sentiment in unstable regions. He said the military must reaffirm how its long-standing strategy can promote stability throughout the Sahel, the semi-arid region south of the Sahara Desert. The 6,000 U.S. military personnel stationed in Africa face new setbacks as the government of Chad and Niger, two key regional allies, welcome Russian forces and paramilitaries and pressure them to vacate posts previously identified as critical for monitoring security challenges. Langley said U.S. forces were withdrawing from Niger in a safe and orderly manner and plan to determine future security partnerships later. He added that the status of U.S. forces in Chad will be reviewed once the country finishes putting in place a new government following elections held earlier this month. The divided UN Security Council has voted this May 30 to extend an arms embargo on South Sudan despite appeals from the world's newest nation, the African Union, and half a dozen countries, including Russia and China, to lift or at least ease the restrictive measures. The US-sponsored resolution got the minimum 9 years vote in the 15-member council, with 6 countries abstaining: Russia, China, Mozambique, Algeria, Sierra Leone, and Guyana. The resolution also extends travel bans and asset freezes on South Sudanese on the UN sanctions blacklist until May 31, 2025. U.S. Deputy Ambassador Robert Wood welcomed the resolution's adoption, saying extending the UN arms embargo remains necessary to stem the unfettered flow of weapons into a region awash with guns. The United States earlier this Thursday has imposed sanctions on Uganda's parliamentary speaker, her husband, and several other officials over corruption and serious abuses of human rights. Parliament Speaker Anita Among was sanctioned due to involvement in significant corruption tied to her leadership of Uganda's National Assembly, the U.S. State Department said. Lieutenant General Peter L. Welu, a former deputy chief of Uganda's military, was sanctioned over extrajudicial killings committed by government troops. 3 former government ministers recently implicated in the theft of roofing sheets that were not distributed to members of an impoverished community were also sanctioned. Among a senior member of Uganda's ruling party and an ally of President Yoweri Museveni, has been under the spotlight recently over the source of her wealth, as well as allegations relating to the misuse of parliamentary resources. The United Kingdom, however, announced sanctions against her last month, citing corruption.
Elaborate report from our foreign page has brought us together to the end, has brought us to the close of our primetime news this evening. But before we take leave of you, let us review our top stories. The 2024 diaconate ordination of the Dioceses of Buea is built for the 29th of June, and 12 candidates have been declared fit for the ordination rite. The funeral mass of the first ever female lawyer in Cameroon, Mama Mariana Ngunjo Chalo Weleji, has taken place. Lawyers from across the country joined the Christian community of Holy Family Parish Limbe to pay her last respect. And the stakeholders of the Southwest Development Authority Soweto have ended the board meeting today, which took place at Mountain Hotel in Buea. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Primetime News. For the month of May, I've been Reverend Alphonse Kema, bringing to you your Primetime News. And for the month of June, you shall be in the company of Father Alphonse Wongibe, who shall be the presenter of our Primetime News. It has been quite a wonderful time, and at this point in time, we live in the company of interesting programs on DMR TV, and we say bye-bye.